typically comes up with a theme or they tell a story. And today I'm going to tell you a story because I heard something and I thought it was very apropos for what we're doing here today. So the story is called Your Choice, Heaven or Hell. There was a young person and they were debating whether they were going to take a path of virtue or if they wanted to follow a path of greed. Because as they looked out and saw what was going on in the world, they saw that greedy people seemed to always have a lot of stuff, whereas the virtuous people didn't always have so much. And so this person prayed that they be shown heaven and hell to help them make their choice. And while they were sleeping, the young person wound up at the gates of hell. Only, much to their surprise, hell was gorgeous. It was beautiful. There was a white marble palace with beautiful landscaped yard and animals playing, and you could see mountains and the ocean. And there was an escort, and the escort led the person up through the path of gold. And as they walked in, they saw beautiful artwork and fine craftsmanship everywhere. And the person was just amazed at how beautiful it was. And then heard a little bell, and the escort took him over to an alcove, and they looked out over the dining hall, and a table full of the most succulent food came out from behind a curtain. And the young person was just amazed. And then he noticed that the residents started showing up, and they were grumbling, and they were pale, and they looked ghastly and emaciated. And then he noticed all of their arms were strapped to a heavy burden, and they were all hunched over. And then the bell rang again, and they snarled at each other, and they snarled, and it was just the most horrible thing. And then it occurred to the person. This was the torture of hell. This was the insidiousness that they all had to watch each other starve to death. And the young person couldn't handle it. Said, "This is you're surrounded by all this. It's more terrible than I ever imagined." And the escort took the person to heaven. Standing at the gates of heaven, the young person was even more perplexed. Heaven looked identical to hell. It was the same white palace. It was the same gold pathway, the same manicured yard with the same landscape. As they walked in, it was the same craftsmanship. And the person was really, really confused. And then the dinner bell rang again. They went to the same alcove, and out rolled another table of the most succulent food. And then they stood and waited. And as they waited, this time, instead of grumbling and grilling, they heard laughter and people singing and talking and having a great time. And as they wandered in, the young person noticed that they were very healthy. But they too had the big, heavy iron bar. And and the young person was confused. And the escort said, "Would you like to speak to one of the residents?" And the answer, of course, was, "Yes, I'd love to speak to one of the residents. I need to find out what the difference is." And the person came over and said, "I can see that you're perplexed. You see, the Creator puts you and your life all on the same earth. We have the same thing here. And everyone on earth has a burden, do they not?" "Oh, yes," said the young person. "We just all have the same burden, that we cannot bend our arms to feed ourselves. But the difference is this: have you ever asked for something and gotten it?" The young person said, "Yes." "Have you ever given something to someone that they asked for?" "Yes." "How did that make you feel?" "I felt great and honored." Well, that's what we learned on earth. And when you came into this life, the only things you bring are your habits and your choices and your thoughts. What we do that they don't do on the other side is when the dinner is served, we have a little plate in front of us. And we can't reach and we can't eat. We can't bend our arms. But the person directly across from us can. So we point at what we want, whether it's our meal or their meal, we point. And they pick it up and they feed us. And then we take turns. They point, we pick it up, and we feed it. You see, when we were in your life, we learned to cherish and to nurture and to share. What the folks on the other side learned to do was when they wanted something, they took it. And because they thought everyone took things, they hoarded. Because if someone asked them and they had the ability to give it to them, they would turn their back on them. They would forsake those people. And they didn't get the feeling. They had the stuff, but it's not about the stuff. It's about cherishing and nurturing each other. So, as you think about this, it really is your choice. Do you choose the path of nurturing, or do you choose the path of hoarding? You're going to have a choice a little later on if you want to join us, and you'll see that we really like to nurture and cherish each other. And in 1924, Ralph Smedley made his choice to nurture young men at the YMCA. He was the director of education, and he knew that for people to advance, to grow, they needed some experience. They needed to be able to speak, and they came up with this forum where it was kind of a dinner forum. It was fairly informal. And in Santa Ana, California, the first Toastmasters meeting was given. And since then, it's grown to over 350,000 members in 118 countries. So we would love later on for you to join us, for those of you who are guests. And please make sure you ask the people that brought you here how much fun and how much we've learned and what the greatness is in helping each other grow. And now we have a Toastmaster that's been with this club for many, many, many years. And he's retired. He doesn't have to come here. But he knows that the sharing and the nurturing and the community that we have here is inspiring to him and to the rest of us. And so I would want you to help me welcome our speaker for the day, Toastmaster Frank Asperer.